Okay, I'm going to work some of these problems from the study guide that there were questions on. I'm going to start with question 9. We're doing a 90% confidence interval. And we have a sample of 21 homes. And the average or the mean for the sample of March was 311.90, and the sample standard deviation is 5160. So we do not know the population standard deviation, which means we have to use the t-distribution for this one. So first, let's start by finding the standard error of the mean, and we're going to use S in the place of the population standard deviation. We're going to use a sample, and we would get 11.26. This may be off just a little bit on this one, but if you had answer choices, you would pick the one that was the closest. Okay, so our degrees of freedom would be n minus 1, so 20. So what we need to do is look at our table here and go down to our, that's F. I think it's right after this, or maybe above it. We're looking for the T, so we're looking for 90% and 20. So 90% is going to be this third column, and then 20 would be 1.725 for our T value. So we're going to do our confidence limits. We're going to do our mean. We're going to do plus and minus 1.725 times 11.26. And I think on this one, it was off by a cent or two. So don't be concerned about that. If you're off by $1, then you would be concerned. But if you're off by just a little bit, you're okay. Like a penny or two. So this one I got 331.32 for the upper, and then 311.9 minus 1.725 times 11.26. I got 292.48 for the lower. So just a penny or two. So if you got that or something close to that, you're good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to question 13. And on this one, we had, it's a t-value one. We have a random sample of 26 homes. So n is 26. And we have the average, same thing. Similar here, 305.30. And then we don't know the population. We have the sample standard deviation, so another t-distribution. So we're doing a 95. So we're going to do our standard error of our mean is going to be the sample standard deviation, which is 4650. Divided by the square root of 26, which we're going to say or round to 9.12. So our critical value here is our degrees of freedom is 26 minus 1 is 25, and we're looking for a 95% confidence interval. 95% is going to be the fourth value. So go to 25 and go to the fourth value. It's going to be 2.060. So we're going to do our confidence limits or intervals. We're going to do the mean plus or minus not our critical value, which I just forgot. 2.060 times 9.12. So if you do that in your calculator, 305.3 plus 2.060 times 9.12. You should get, oh, we're not even getting that far. Sorry. We don't even have to do all that. We just need the critical value. And the critical value I showed you was 2.060. Now, moving on to question 14. Let's look at it. This is one where we'll do the limit here. We have n is 13, so our degrees of freedom is 13 minus 1, which is 12. And then our room rate was 172.10, and our sample standard deviation is 23.90. So we're going to do our standard error, which is going to be s over the square root of n, which is 23.90 divided by the square root of 13, and we get 6.6287. You look up your t value, it's going to be 3.055. So we're going to do 172.10 plus and minus 3.055 times 6.62877. And when you do that, 0.287. When you do that, you will get 151.85 and 192.35 for your answer. Okay, moving on to number 16. We have a Verizon Wireless, and we're just wanting the standard error of the proportion. So first we have to find our proportion, and it's going to be 48 out of 150 use strictly cell phones. So our proportion is 0.32. To find the standard error of the proportion, you would do 0.32 times 1 minus 0.32, which is 0.68, divided by 150. So you're going to do 0.32 times 0.68, and you're going to divide that by 150, and then take the square root of that, and you will get 0.0381. Now, going to number 17. This is where the mistake is that I found on the answer key. They have apparently used the 90% confidence interval instead of the 95%. So change the problem here to 90%, and then it will come out correctly. So what we want to do is use our standard error of our proportion, which we already found, which is 0.0381, and the critical value here that we're going to use with the 90% confidence interval, we're going to use the z value on the table in your PowerPoint. Apparently they said 95%, but when I worked it to get the right answer, it's really 90%. So I changed the problem to 90%. So do 0.32 plus and minus 0.0381 times 1.645. And if you do that, you should, and I will check it one more time to make sure, 0.383. Yes, so that will work. So that was actually an error in this problem. So just let me know if you have any questions about any of these.